Hey, everybody, welcome to another show. Today's guest is Branda, and she is going to be talking to us about 4 tips for aligning your copy with your business plans and who she is. She is a copywriter for entrepreneurs and small business owners who want their authentic voice to prevail in their emails and website. Her goal is to help every business owner feel confident in their copy and focus on nurturing over simply making sales. So I'm really excited for her to be here today. I hope you guys enjoy this show, and always thank you for listening.
Welcome to the Savvy Scribe Podcast,
a podcast for healthcare professionals who are interested in starting their own health writing businesses.
I'm Janine, a registered nurse and your host. I'm a labor and delivery nurse, mom to these 2 incredible boys, wife to my best friend, and owner of 2 crazy Great Danes. I help nurses discover freelance writing as an extra income opportunity with help from my guests. Join us over on Facebook in the group Savvy Nurse Writer Community or savvynursewriter.com to join our course and membership to create your own profitable writing business.
Enjoy the show.
So Brandon, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the Savvy Scribe podcast. We're so excited that you're here and excited for the topic that we're covering today. But first, I want to know who you are, where you're from, and how you even got into copywriting and maybe like what your path was to it.
Yeah, so my name's Branda. I'm the owner of the Relevant Collective. I actually started as a teacher. So I taught for 5 years. And while I was teaching, I kind of always knew that teaching wasn't like my forever career, but I thought I would just go into like administration or something. Like I always wanted to stay in the teaching realm. But then, COVID happens. And I think like a lot of us in like the service industry, we're like very hands-on with people or kind of rethinking our careers a little bit. And so I had been doing kind of like a side hustle for a while where I was selling the resources I created in my classroom online to other teachers through a platform called TPT. And I noticed that I loved creating resources, but really I loved the marketing side of things more. Like I liked writing blogs and I liked doing the social media and connecting with people. And so when I decided to leave the classroom, I was like, well, people will pay you to write emails and blogs. A lot of people don't want to do those things. So I just started advertising myself to other teachers who were doing the same thing that I was. And it kind of blew up way faster than I expected. Within about 6 months of going to the freelancing side and doing copywriting, I had the ability to leave and go full time and do it, which was super scary, but really amazing. So a lot of the people that I work with are teachers who are still in the classroom or are former teachers who now do like full-time businesses. But that's kind of how I got my start in all of it. And I really enjoy being able to still kind of tap into education in that way because it's always been a passion of mine, but really the writing is just, I really enjoy doing that part. I'm fine
That's
not
really
creating
cool.
the resources.
Like we've had a bunch of teachers on the podcast, us in this service-based industry.
Yes.
First off, the guilt, right? The guilt that like
Yes.
everyone's still out there struggling as teachers, as nurses, they're hating their jobs, they're burnout, all the things. And then here we are, like, we love our job, we're flexible. You feel that little bit of guilt, but good for you for paving the way even before COVID that, it only accelerated your progress, I'm sure, to then just leave, I always said the bedside, leave the classroom.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
the same idea, right? But what I love about and what makes you different than the other guests I've had that are teachers is that you're still in the teaching space of teachers, like your audience
Yes.
being teachers too, which is so cool because like we kind of have that in our agency too, is that like some of the audience that we're writing to are nurses. So you still feel like
Yeah.
you're helping your coworkers in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit, because I know people are probably like, okay, so she left her job as a teacher, but what are you exactly writing for others now?
Yeah, so it started just doing blogging. So like anyone who has a business has some sort of long form content, probably, right? Whether that be a podcast or a blog or YouTube. And so I'm started doing just the blogging with people. And then I expanded that even more into like email marketing. So that became a big focus where I'm writing like their nurture sequences, the funnels that people get when they sign on for a lead magnet, and also just their weekly emails as well, like nurturing their audience. So that's like a really big focus of my business at this point now is kind of nurture focused copy. I'm a really strong believer in connections and relationships are really the foundation of any strong business. I saw that so much still currently in my own business, but I would not have been able to go full time as quickly as I did if I hadn't spent 3 years in this side hustle building relationships. I mean, that is
Right.
pretty much all I did for 3 years. And so whenever I was ready to transition and I was ready to say, hey, I have something that you can buy, all these people who had known me for years at this point were like, I trust you. I've watched you develop and grow. And they were literally ready to jump in and hand me their money, which was scary, but also like amazing. And those people become really great clients and also really great friends. And so relationships are really, really important. That's what I try to instill with my clients as well. So
now when you were saying like you connected with all these people, where were you connecting? Because I know things were shut down during COVID times and whatnot. Were you doing a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that? Or where were your people at?
yeah, the main for me has been Instagram. That's been a huge, there's like Teachergram is like a really big place for teachers. I don't know if like nurses have a similar thing.
We definitely have like influencers. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
a nursing gram or not, but Teachergram, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know
So
that.
there's like a whole sector kind of like teacher influencers, teacher business owners. And so I was connecting with a lot of people there, but also there were like Facebook groups. I joined a couple communities similar to, I'm sure, like the Savvy Scribe community, where I was already connecting with a lot of people who were in a similar niche as me. So then I just kind of developed relationships with those people as well. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so before we dive into the meat of the content here, I want to know, what was your biggest fear when you left the classroom and did this full time?
Probably the same fear I get every once in a while, which is like it's all going to explode and like it's not going to last, right? I think that's probably anyone who does any sort of business or freelancing I've talked to.
I was talking about it yesterday actually to this group. I was like, the biggest fear of mine or like worry or the what if or whatever, it was, what if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
What if it, like you said, blows up? What if? Well, then I guess I'm still a nurse. I could still go back, like you're still a teacher. They obviously need teachers out there. But I almost feels like that's the push too, is, well, I don't want to go back. I will figure it out.
Yes.
So you just keep going in that.
I did renew like my teaching license. It was up this year and I was like, I know I probably shouldn't because I really believe in what I have and I don't think it's going to self-implode. But at the same time, you never know. And like you said,
I agree.
They always need teachers. So I know when in doubt, I will get a job somewhere. So
Well, we have like a whole bunch of different like certifications in nursing too. So my license itself, I don't think I'll ever let go. But like my CPR and my ACLS, I let those go this past year because I'm like, well, first off, if I do go back, I need that as a refresher anyway, because there's going to be updated guidelines and it'd be smart of me to then just do everything. So but it was hard. It was really hard.
It's a hard choice. Yeah. Because you want to fall back,
what about
but
like
gotta trust
your family and friends? Were they like, what are you doing? Why?
My husband was
what do you
actually
do?
really supportive. I have to give him like huge props for that. He never like once batted an eye. Because originally I was like, I'll just do part-time my own business and part-time something else. And then like 2 months later, I was like, just kidding. I'm gonna go full-time. And he's like, okay.
A good problem to have.
Yes. My family and friends probably don't really understand what I do most of the time. So I think they're just kind of like, yay, what is it?
Yeah, what are you doing?
But everyone's been really supportive, which made a huge difference. No one has once been like, no, this isn't possible. Everyone's been like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe you made this happen. Like, congrats.
So do you have like different revenue streams? Are you still doing the resources and like for TPT and that's teachers pays teachers, everybody?
Yeah.
And doing like the blogging and stuff with your other clients?
Yeah, most of my revenue does come through like freelancing, contract work. I do get some money also through the TPT. I don't do anything with it anymore, but it's there. So I still do make a couple $100 a month from that. But also I do like workshops and things like that. And I have a program for like copy for teacher writers, like teacher business owners. So that's been something I've been building. And so I do get some like kind of bonus revenue, I guess, from there whenever I run that. And I'm like, cool, I didn't expect to make that extra money. That definitely helps. So
absolutely all right, so let's dive in a little bit to our content today. We are talking all about 4 tips to aligning your copy with your business plans. So I'm going to let you take it away from here and I'll chime in with questions.
So kind of like I said, I'm really big on nurture focused copy. That is like a huge part, and one part of my business that I've been developing a lot and that I've seen a lot of people struggle with, and that I just have a big passion with, is creating great content plans and making sure that your copy is helping further your content plan. So one of the workshops that I run with people, I was like helping them plan their emails, was that I realized it was way bigger than this. A lot of people, like, they could sit down and plan their emails, or they might have a goal for their business, but then when they would create their content, they weren't putting their goals and their content together, if that makes sense. So like, I want to make more sales. But then they weren't actually necessarily being intentional about how they were planning to do that. Like, how are you going to make more sales? How are you going to get to that point? So the first thing I always tell everyone is you have to get clear on your goals. And you could plan those goals in a quarterly fashion. You could plan them in a monthly fashion. If you really want to fly by the seat of your pants, you could do it weekly. I always suggest doing it quarterly. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like a goal always is going to take, it always takes way longer than I expect it to. So a quarter gives me plenty of time to meet a big goal. So for instance, let's say that one of my goals for this quarter, it actually is a goal for this quarter, is I'm coming up with a new offer for my clients. And so I'm spending all this quarter making sure that I'm building up to this offer. So, which goes to tip number 2, is I want to start planning content with that goal in mind. So long form content is probably the best place to start with that. So blogs, podcast, and YouTube videos, whatever you're doing, that's going to be long form content that's going to hang out for a while. This is where I'm going to start getting people familiar with the idea. So I'm not going to like actually pitch them the offer yet and be like, hey, here's this new thing that I'm selling. First, I'm going to like warm them up to the idea of what I want to give them. So the new offer is going to be all around like a 90-day done for you content creation, right? But I'm going to have to first get people to understand like why creating content is important and why they need to do this and why hiring me is going to be beneficial to them. So if I don't plant all of those seeds before I jump into the sales portion, I'm going to be pitching to a cold audience. I'm going to be pitching to people who may not understand why they need to be doing this. So really the first 2 parts is probably like the biggest part of aligning your copy. Is first you have to make sure you have that solid plan. And then when you start planning, like you want to start creating that path essentially towards that goal.
Yeah, for sure. Have you read the book 12-Week Year?
I have not, no.
Write it down. It's a good one because you like to plan quarterly.
Yes.
And it's awesome because it walks, and I like quarterly planning too. It walks you through like just, week 1, week 2, week 3, how you're going to plan that in that quarter, and then, eventually launch. But it's a good book for people that plan quarterly. And I agree with you. You have to educate, inform, all that with your audience before you just throw something out there.
Yeah.
Or like you said, you're not gonna get the response you were hoping for. Let's say that.
Yes.
Even if you do all the planning and all that, sometimes you don't get the response that you're hoping for, but it doesn't mean you give up on that plan. Sometimes it's well, what went wrong? How can I make it better? And try again.
Yes.
And I think a lot of business owners give up after that first, if they do like one offer that they've ever done their entire life and it flops, a lot of people just give up. Oh, it's not for me. It's not going to work. Instead of like learning from it and trying to do something a little bit different. And that, I mean, that's marketing, testing. So I agree with you. I love that. I love that. And 12-Week Year. I'll put the link in the show notes and in the chat here for people that are attending, and for you, Branda, so you can get it.
Awesome. I think also when like you're planning goals, a lot of times, first you want to make sure like you're pretty strategic, but like when I set my goal of I'm going to introduce this new offer and I'm going to put this new offer out there, my goal actually wasn't to like sell the offer. I mean, great if I like sell this new 90-day content plan to people, like awesome, amazing. I would obviously love that. But I also know that this is brand new. Most people haven't heard this from me before. So a big part of that goal is actually just like brand awareness. So I think we forget about that too. Whenever we think like something is a flop, we're like, oh, well, that didn't go well. No one seemed to care. No one commented. No one bought it from me. And I'm like, but this is the first time they've ever heard it from you. So it was the first time they even knew that you're offering this. So they're going to have to probably sit on it for a little bit and like let it marinate. So that doesn't actually mean that it was a flop. Now they know that you do this. And now the more you talk about it, and when you bring it up again later, they'll hopefully think about it again if it's something that does interest them or pique their interest a little bit. So I think we also sometimes have to change when we look at our goals. Like not just look at one analytic of like, did I sell? Or like, did someone open my email? But like, what's maybe the larger data at play there?
And the other thing is, there's a stat, I gotta find it, like who said it or whatever, but that some people are on your like newsletter list or whatever, your email list for 2 years sometimes, or
Yeah.
they've been following you for 2 years on social before they ever buy anything. But normally those are your best customers because then they get one product or one offer from you, and then they're like, oh my God, I didn't know, like
Yes.
at this little buy, I had no idea what was inside of this program or this offer. I was blown away, and go, oh, okay. And they're almost a lifetime customer rather than a bunch of little sales that, you don't get too much from.
Yeah.
It's when you over deliver on your offer that people are like, oh my gosh, I should have done this sooner. And they just
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. It's kind of the next portion after you've kind of gotten your long form content planned out. And I think someone asked this, I saw it pop up in the comment. When you're planning your goals, like for quarterly, I do break them down. So, if my goal is to introduce my offer, I'm probably going to then break that down per month. Like what is something small I can do every month? And then build my long form content around that. And then the next thing I would do is repurpose that. So work smarter, not harder, right? If I'm planning this long form content and I know it's going to help me meet my goal, then I want to create smaller pieces of content. So that's like your emails, your social media, reels, TikToks, whatever you're on. You don't need to be doing all of those things. I don't do all of those things. Pick the place or a few places that you want to be. And again, make sure that you're talking about the same thing over and over. I always tell people, if you sound like a broken record, you're probably doing it right. Because the more that you talk about it, even though you're annoyed with yourself, because you're like, how many times can I freaking say this? Other people may not have, this may be the first time they've heard it from you, right? Or like you said, they're on your list for 2 years. They may be following you for 2 years. So it may take a long time for them to finally like get that messaging and get it in their head. And there's like some stat that I don't know right off the top of my head of like the pieces of, I know they used to say like 7 times is how often someone needed to hear something, but I think that's like changed so much with the way short form video works nowadays, that like micro content and micro interactions is really, and it's like 50 plus times that people have to see like a micro interaction in order to make some sort of movement. So just remember that whenever you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
it's for a good reason.
I get that. I feel that like even when I'm talking about, I always talk about the course, right? The course. But then, you get a basic question and you're like, okay, wait, she didn't even know I existed until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do feel like you're constantly repeating yourself, but think about any commercial you see on TV, especially back in the day when we all like watched live TV.
Yeah.
Like you see the same commercials all the time. And then you remember the jingles, and then you remember like everything that goes with it. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're showing up all the time and doing, especially like Instagram, for example, you have all those opportunities to do short form and visual and all that. And yeah, it just like kind of comes together. So
yeah,
for sure. I like that.
And I know when people think like social media or reels or TikTok, you may not think copy, but copy actually is a really big part of that. So that's like your captions, that's the text that you're putting over your reel or on your TikTok. That's also your call to action. That is the piece of copy that's probably the most important. So when I'm saying align your copy with your business plans, make sure that all of those little, even if they're just micro pieces of copy, are aligned with where you want people to go. Are at this point you just wanting them to communicate with you? At this point, are you wanting them to go and see your new offer? Or what is the ultimate goal that's going to lead them to whatever is a part of your business plan for that month or that quarter? And just be really strategic with your copy. It doesn't mean that every piece of copy has to be about furthering your goal. Sometimes you're just building connections or having fun, right? But ultimately we don't want to be like winging it with every single Instagram post that we put out or every single email that we do. And I think that's what I see a lot of my clients fall into is they're like, well, I didn't know what to write this week. So I just like wrote a random email about something happening. And it's like, but how did that email further you towards your goal? It didn't. Okay. Then that probably wasn't the best email to send. You only send 4 emails a month and now you're winging them. So that's very, if you're doing 4 a month, right? That's not a lot.
No, right.
So you got to be really intentional.
And I'm curious too, like how you would relate this towards, the writer, somebody who doesn't have a quote unquote offer that we're probably thinking of, like a
Yeah.
course or a resource or something like that. You have an offer, writers, you do. It's
Yeah.
called your services, but I'm going to let you explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my offers are my services, right? So that's what I do for people. So anytime, again, if I'm creating a new service, or when I was just writing blogs, that was all I did. I was constantly talking about, you can showcase blogs that you've written. You can point people towards portfolios, a project that you've done. Or if maybe like you're using your blog to generate income, right? Then point people to your blog, because that's essentially what you're trying to do, right? Is get them on your blog so that it it's like affiliate links that they might be clicking on, or it's ad revenue, or whatever you're trying to do through your writing. So it doesn't matter if you're selling a physical product, a digital product, or you're doing services, whatever that goal is, whether that be, nurturing your audience more, whether that be growing your list, everything you should do should meet that goal. Your business goal does not have to be selling. Your business goal doesn't even have to be, making additional income. Your business goal could simply be getting more people on your list. So how are you going to do that for the entire quarter? I think we think marketing, we think sales, but marketing is like so many more things than just selling. Yeah.
It's actually probably more than everything.
Yes.
More than just selling, like more,
way more. Yeah.
way more. The sell is like the littlest part, because there's so much to build trust in a customer and, anybody, a client. So yeah, I like that. I like what you're saying, because I think we always think that as writers, like, oh, I don't sell a physical product or whatever. So you think like this whole conversation's irrelevant, but it's not. You guys have services, and you got to get known out there. And, most of our clients are found over on LinkedIn. So what do? You have to leverage where they are. So get that profile optimized, start liking and commenting and using your thought leadership as a nurse over there, and how you can help their company. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, LinkedIn is literally like all about copy. So yeah. And, directing people to your blogs or to projects that you've done. So it all comes down to your copy. And then kind of the last piece that is going to like help push you towards your business goal is, I always recommend batching as much as possible. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Because if you are batching, you're giving your time for other things, right? If I'm writing my email every single week, or I'm writing my LinkedIn post every single week on the fly, whatever I may be doing, I'm probably wasting some time in my business, because it's like an afterthought, right? I'm like, oh, and I'm rushing to get it done because I feel like I need to do something. Whereas if I'm batching and I'm getting ahead on things, then I can schedule it, or I just have those emails already written somewhere, and all I have to do is paste them and send them out. But I can actually then focus on what I need to. I can focus on my client work. I can focus on writing. I can focus on connecting. But also batching is going to actually help you meet your goals. So like I said, if you're sending 4 emails a month and 2 of them you just winged it, so you were again writing it on the fly and it had nothing to do with what you really need to do, it didn't actually further your business at all, then great. Same with, if you're posting on social media or connecting with people on LinkedIn and it's on the fly, you don't actually have any sort of plan for yourself, then it's probably not going to match your goals as well as it could. Whereas if you're actually sitting down and creating that entire quarterly plan or even monthly plan, and you're saying, here are the steps that I'm going to take to lead my customer down the path to going from getting to know me to wanting to hire me for writing, what am I going to have to do to get there? Or to getting to know me, to signing up to my list, what am I going to have to do to get them there? Then you can be really strategic and not feel so overwhelmed about like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the quarter, I didn't come anywhere near my goal, now I'm going to try to post everywhere to get people on my list, or whatever your goal is. That's not what we want to do. That's being, a freelancer and owning business is stressful enough. So you got to try to get ahead of yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Like, I always joke about the podcast. Like, I can't believe, like, we just did our 200th episode not that long ago. And I'm like, this is the only thing I've done consistently for 200 weeks ever in my entire life. But it's not, it's because I batch it all. Like, truly, it's not done every week, because that would be stressful. Like, you'd never get a time off, because you would be like, oh my God, I have to do another podcast. You just, and it's not just recording this, it's then editing and making it pretty and doing social graphics and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like I've been in those situations where I'm like, oh my God, I have to hurry and get this done. And it never comes out as good as you want it to. So I agree. Batching's like my life. It's the only
Yes.
way to really be time efficient. And especially in tasks, like think of those tasks you do weekly or daily or whatever that you can bunch together. And LinkedIn finally lets you schedule content. So if you guys want to get out on LinkedIn, you can now schedule content. If you batch it on a Friday, you can schedule
Yeah.
it for the entire week, the next week, or however you want to do it. So, so thank you. I love that. I love all those tips.
Yeah.
So tell us, Brandon, where people can find you, and
Yeah.
if we happen to get a teacher on here today listening, because I know there's
Yeah.
crossover a lot.
Yes.
So
Well, I do write for people outside of teaching as well. I do work with people. That just happens to be like my main place I do things. But I also work with lots of service providers like social media managers and web developers and all that. So, but you can find me. I hang out on Instagram, mostly social media wise, at The Relevant Collective. And then my website is therelevantcollective.com. That's kind of where you'll find, I do post pretty regularly on social. I'm probably on there way too much. So a great distraction in the middle of my day. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself like when you're doing your social stuff, like spending more time than you want to?
Oh
like,
yeah. 100%.
I gotta get out of here.
Yes. I'm like the person who's like, you see something and they're like, stop scrolling, be intentional about your time. I'm like, well, we're an hour in, so I lost that opportunity.
Right. We'll let you know when this goes live. Don't worry.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
again, thank you guys so much. Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Savvy Scribe. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Until next time.